All right, so today we're diving into something kind of different. We're always hearing about like robots are taking our jobs, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is a big topic these days.
It is, but this research paper we're looking at goes way deeper. It's not just about losing your job to a robot. It's about how technology like really changes how we live and work.
And it takes a pretty unique approach. They combine cybernetics, like self-governing systems,
Great.
with occupational science, which is all about how humans find meaning in the stuff we do.
Honestly, when I first saw those two things together, I was like, not sure about this. But then I started reading.
Yeah, it really makes you think differently about things. Like we always hear about needing high-level skills to survive in this robot future.
Right, or like if your job is something a robot could do easily, then you're kind of doomed.
Exactly. But this paper says it's more about the cybernetic characteristics of the tech itself, not just if a robot could theoretically do your job.
Okay, so I think we need to break that down a bit.
Right.
What exactly are cybernetic characteristics?
Okay, so think about an elevator. It's automatic, right? But it's not exactly smart, is it?
Okay.
It just goes up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple. So that would be an example of like static, simple cybernetics.
Makes sense.
But then compare that to a self-driving car.
Way more complex.
Exactly. That's adaptive, complex cybernetics. Both technologies change things, but in totally different ways. And both disrupt things, but in very different ways.
Right. Like we still use elevators all the time, but
Yep.
self-driving cars, I mean, that could change everything, right? How we
Yeah.
get around, how cities are designed, maybe even if people own cars at all.
Totally. And the paper argues that this idea, how the cybernetics of the technology matters, it applies to way more than just jobs, which is where it gets really interesting.
So we're not just talking about losing your job to a robot. We're talking about how technology changes how we spend our time, period, even our hobbies.
Yeah, all of it. Our relationships, how we relax, everything. They call it our occupations, but they're thinking way bigger than just work.
So it's about technology changing the entire landscape of our lives, basically, not just like making things more efficient.
Right. And that's what I think is so fascinating about this research. It's not just about, oh, robots are going to take our jobs. It's about what gives our lives meaning and how tech impacts that.
But like you said, not just our jobs, right?
Right. It's anything that takes up our time and gives it purpose.
Yeah.
Your job is definitely an occupation, but so is, volunteering at your kid's school,
Okay, yeah.
learning to play guitar, spending time with your family, all those things we do that make up our lives.
And all those things are being impacted by technology. I mean, even in like small ways, if you think about it. I remember when my family first got a dishwasher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about like, oh, cool, someone doesn't have to wash dishes by hand anymore. It changed like our whole evening routine.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
The researchers actually talk about dishwashers. They use it as a case study.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. It wasn't just about replacing one job in the home. It's it freed up time for everyone. And then families had more time for other activities, which,
Right. Could be good or bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could be good or bad. Like maybe you have more family time or maybe you just watch more TV.
It's so true. So it's not like technology is inherently good or bad, but it's about how it shifts the whole, I don't know, the landscape of our occupations, creates new possibilities and challenges, I guess.
Yeah. And sometimes those changes happen in ways we totally don't expect. Like during COVID, for example.
Oh my gosh. Talk about a curveball. The pandemic changed everything. How we work, how we socialize, even just like ordering food.
Right. And it forced us to rely on technology in ways that we hadn't before. It really accelerated some trends that were already happening, but the pandemic just put it on fast forward.
Totally. I feel like everyone has a Zoom account now. But people talk about those changes in a kind of limited way, don't they? It was all about which jobs could be done by a robot from now on.
Yeah. Exactly. If your job could be done from a computer, you were suddenly
Hot stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this research paper, it has a much more nuanced take on all of that.
Okay, so let's dig into that then. Give us the nuanced take on the pandemic and technology.
Okay, so let's think about food delivery apps for a second. They weren't new, right? They already
Right.
existed,
Right.
but suddenly everyone was using them. And the common narrative is that it's because those jobs, like working in a restaurant, those were seen as low skill,
Right, easy to replace with an app.
Exactly. But this research would say, hold on a second, it's more complex than that.
So it's not just that robots were suddenly able to make your burger and fries.
Exactly. The technology was ready to go, but it was the context of the pandemic.
Right.
The lockdowns, people not wanting to go out, needing contactless delivery. That's what made it so disruptive so quickly.
So it changed our relationship with food, basically. And with going out to restaurants.
Exactly.
Huh. It's like we don't even think about that part, how it changes how we view these everyday activities.
And how much they're intertwined with technology now, which is a whole other...
It's true. Like, ordering food isn't just ordering food anymore. There's this whole tech layer on top of it.
Right.
It's not just about, is this more efficient? It's about, how does this change what I value, how I spend my time, what gives me a sense of purpose?
Exactly. And the pandemic forced us to confront this in another big way, like our whole relationship with work, you know?
So we were talking about the pandemic, really shaking things up, especially with work.
Yeah, it definitely made everyone rethink things, like even beyond just, can I do my job from home?
Right.
Because remember, this research is about occupations, not just jobs.
Right. So it's not about where you're working from, but like how that impacts all the other stuff that matters to you.
Exactly. Like, think about the whole Great Resignation thing.
Yeah.
Yes, some people were just over bad bosses, but a lot of it was about people saying like, wait, what do I actually want my life to look like?
Right. It forced everyone to slow down and like actually think about that stuff.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, the answer was not this.
Right. Which, I mean, I get it. I definitely had some of those moments myself. Like, is this really?
Totally. And that's where the connection between technology and occupations gets really interesting. Because the same technology that made remote work possible, like Zoom, project management apps, all that, it also gave people the tools to engage more fully in their other occupations, you know?
It's true. It's like the line between work and life got even blurrier, right? You could be on a work call while folding laundry or take that online pottery class during your lunch break.
Exactly. And for some people, that flexibility made a huge difference. Because it wasn't about being more productive in the traditional sense. It was about having more control over your time and energy to spend on things that you actually cared about.
Which I think brings us back to that key point from this research, that we can't just look at technology as this like neutral force. It shapes our values, our priorities, even our sense of well-being, whether we realize it or not.
Right. And it's really important, I think, to be mindful of how we design and regulate these technologies going forward. Like researchers were saying, blaming low skills or routine tasks for tech disruption, it kind of puts all the responsibility on individuals.
Oh, interesting.
And especially on those who might already be at a disadvantage.
Right, it's like saying, oh, just learn to code, without acknowledging all those bigger societal factors at play.
Exactly. Because technology doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? We shape it, and it shapes us.
It's so true.
So instead of just asking, can we automate this? I think we need to be asking, should we automate this? And if so, how do we do it in a way that actually benefits everyone, not just a select few?
Right, like how do we make sure technology is actually serving us, serving our values, not the other way around?
Exactly.
Man, this is a lot to think about.
It is. But that's kind of the point, right? To get us thinking differently about all of this.
Yeah, to have a more like, I don't know, holistic view of how technology is impacting our lives, our work, our relationships, our hobbies, everything.
Exactly. Everything we do, everything we care about.
It's not just about robots coming for our jobs. It's much bigger than that.
Way bigger.
Yeah.
And hopefully, this deep dive has given you some new ways to think about it.
I know it has for me. So listener, next time you open up that app on your phone or hop on a Zoom call or even just load up the dishwasher, take a second to think about it.
Yeah, ask yourself, how is this technology shaping your life? What possibilities are there? What challenges? It's a conversation worth having.
It really is.